The morning sunlight spilled into Orly Browsard's Manhattan studio, streaking across the hardwood floor in long golden lines. Outside, the city was alive with its usual cacophony, taxi horns blaring, the faint wail of distant sirens, and the constant murmur of footsteps on wet asphalt. Autumn had painted the streets in amber hues, but the warmth outside did little to ease the tension coiling in Orly's chest. She pressed a hand against the thick leather folder resting on her desk. Inside was every piece of information about Lysander Kane 35, CEO of Kane Dynamics, a man whose presence alone could dominate any room. Brilliant, ruthless, and irresistibly magnetic, he was both the mission and the risk. Her phone buzzed. She checked it. A single, stark notification. You have 47 minutes. Complete the task or lose everything. Orly exhaled slowly. 6 months of double lives had led her to this exact moment. Outside, she was Alina, a rising star in the world of tech analytics. Inside, she was a spy tasked with infiltrating Kane Dynamics and extracting a quantum encryption protocol that could shift the balance of the tech world. She ran through her mental checklist. Lysander Kane, the CEO, was rarely seen outside the lab. When he was, his gaze was sharp enough to unearth hidden truths. Kane Dynamics' quantum project could change the world of data security forever. Cassius Thorne, the anonymous figure orchestrating her mission, had promised $5 million for success, but failure meant ruin, or worse. "All right, Orly," she whispered to herself, trying to steady the tremor in her hands. No mistakes, no hesitation, no second guesses. She slipped into a tailored navy dress that hugged her form, the color complementing her chestnut hair that cascaded in soft waves over her shoulders. Her makeup was minimal, but just enough to highlight her green eyes that were about to face a storm of scrutiny and danger. In Manhattan, appearance was a currency, but perception was the real power. The taxi pulled up outside Kane Dynamics. Her heels clicked against the polished marble steps as she stepped out, and the sound echoed faintly against the glass skyscraper. The elevator whisked her upward, passing floor after floor until she reached the 50-second threshold to Lysander, Kane's private domain. With every ascending number, her pulse accelerated. Each moment felt as though she were stepping closer to a precipice, a world where one misstep could unravel everything. When the elevator doors opened, she froze. There he was, Lysander Kane, framed against the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Manhattan. He was tall, impeccably dressed in grey, and carried himself with the calm authority of a man used to commanding entire industries. His gaze swept the room before settling on her. It was sharp, calculating, and piercing an unspoken challenge. "You're Orly Browsard." His voice was calm, low, deliberate. "Yes," she replied, her voice steady despite the rapid beat of her heart. "You understand where you're stepping?" "Right." His eyes studied her like a mathematician examining a complex problem. "This isn't just an apartment. It's my world, and I don't allow casual intrusion." Orly nodded. "I understand. I won't do anything reckless." He raised an eyebrow, a small, knowing smirk playing at the corner of his lips. There was curiosity in his eyes, yes, but also a faint, dangerous glimmer that made her stomach tighten. One look, and she could feel him mapping every movement, every intent, every micro-expression. She stepped toward the glass desk. A sleek laptop awaited, its screen dark and silent. "Did you prepare this for me?" she asked, the edge in her voice betraying the tension coiling in her chest. "No," he replied, smooth, deliberate. I just wanted to see how you react under pressure. A chill ran down her spine. This wasn't just a CEO evaluating her. This was a strategist, a predator, a man who measured every action before it was taken. Orly realized in that instant, this mission wasn't only about data. It was about navigating Lysander Kane himself. The soft hum of servers filled the room, mixing with the distant city sounds below. The sunlight streaming through the windows reflected off polished surfaces, glinting like tiny signals of caution. Orly felt her pulse quicken, her palms slightly damp. Every instinct screamed that she was entering a world of calculated power and subtle danger. "Do you feel it?" Lysander asked softly, his gaze not leaving hers. "Feel what?" she asked. Cautiously. "Potential," he said, almost as if whispering a secret, the kind that can change everything. "If you know how to manage it." Orly swallowed hard. Every fiber of her being acknowledged the thrill, the fear, and the dangerous fascination that coursed through her. He gestured toward the lab beyond the office. "Shall we start?" "Yes," she breathed, stepping inside. The mission had begun, and for the first time, she realized this was also a test of herself, her limits, and perhaps her heart. The Kane Foundation Gala was Manhattan's social event of the Suzuna glittering palace of marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the soft hum of conversation that mingled with the faint strains of a string quartet. Outside, the city lights shimmered like a million fireflies, but inside, the room was alive with its own electricity. Polished shoes clicking, champagne glasses clinking, the faint perfume of ambition and power. Orly Browsard entered the ballroom like a comet streaking through a carefully curated universe. Her emerald gown hugged her figure in just the right way, catching every reflection of the chandeliers. Her chestnut hair fell in loose waves, and her green eyes scanned the room alert, calculating, assessing. She was not just attending a gala. She was walking into the eye of a storm, where every glance could be measured. Every word could be WEAPONIZED. And then she saw him, Lysander Kane, leaning against a marble pillar, tuxedo black as midnight, hands casually tucked into his pockets. He was surveying the room, but it was clear he wasn't noticing anyone else. His dark eyes found hers instantly, a spark of recognition and challenge lighting up his gaze. Orly felt a small shiver run down her spine, and she reminded herself, this man could dismantle her in seconds, not with violence, but with perception alone. "You know, Orly," he said, appearing at her side as if he had materialized out of the crowd, "I rarely meet someone who challenges me and intrigues me at the same time." Her pulse skipped. She tilted her head, a slight smirk forming. "And what exactly are you doing, Mr. Kane, watching me?" "No," he replied, a smirk of his own curving his lips. "Observing. You're clever, ambitious, but there's more I want to see." She felt the weight of those words, the subtle power they carried. A thrill ran through her, tempered by the icy awareness that this was a game of appearances and deception. And Lysander was already 3 moves ahead. A server passed by with a tray of champagne flutes, the delicate clinking of glass like a metronome, marking time and tension. Orly accepted one, her hands steady despite the rapid beat of her heart. The cool liquid slid down her throat, and for a moment she let herself breathe in the grandeur and the danger of the room. "You look tense," Lysander observed, eyes narrowing ever so slightly. "Is it the gala or me? Maybe both," she admitted, letting a hint of humor lighten the tension. He smiled, leaning closer, his cologne a mix of sandalwood and something elusive filling her senses. We'll see if you survive both. The evening wore on. Orly navigated conversations with tech investors, philanthropists, and influential board members, all while Lysander remained in her peripheral vision. She felt his gaze, a constant pressure, and realized that every word, every gesture, even a laugh, could be a move in an invisible game. At one point, he approached again, bringing her away from the crowd to a quieter corner by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson. The water shimmered under the city lights, reflecting a mosaic of gold, blue, and silver. "You're not just clever," he said, voice low, serious, yet tinged with amusement. "You're deliberate. Every step, every word. I like that." Orly's pulse quickened. She forced herself to meet his gaze evenly. "I've had practice." He studied her, and in that moment, the subtle tension became almost tangible, like a charged wire running between them. "Do you ever feel pulled in two directions?" She raised an eyebrow. "Define pulled." "Between who you are and what you're capable of," he said quietly. "Between instinct and strategy. Between desire and duty." Orly felt the breath catch in her throat. He could see it. He could see all of it. "I'm very aware of what I'm capable of," she said carefully, "and I know how to maintain control." Lysander smiled, faint and knowing. "Control is relative. Sometimes the game controls you, whether you like it or not." A brief pause. Then he added, softer this time, almost intimate, "Tomorrow, coffee. I want to hear more of your ideas on that project you hinted at." Her stomach tightened. "Yes. I'd like that," she managed, forcing a casual tone as she moved back into the swirl of guests. The realization struck her. Every minute in Lysander Kane's presence was a test. Every glance, every conversation was a move in a game she hadn't agreed to but couldn't escape. And somewhere deep in her chest, something else stirred. A dangerous mix of curiosity, respect, and something she wasn't prepared to name. The gala carried on around them. Chandeliers flickered. Laughter and music intertwined. Glasses clinked. But Orly felt a separate rhythm, a pulse of tension, intrigue, an anticipation that only Lysander could generate. And she knew that the real challenge was just beginning. The next morning, Orly's taxi slid through the quiet Manhattan streets, the amber leaves swirling across the pavement in the soft wind. Her stomach was a coil of nerves and anticipation. Every light reflecting off the glass towers outside seemed to echo the questions running through her mind. Can I trust myself? Can I survive this mission? And what am I feeling for him? The lobby of Kane Dynamics was quiet for the early hour. Marble floors gleamed under the soft morning light, and the faint hum of security systems blended with the distant city traffic. Outside, Orly's heels clicked sharply against the polished tiles. Every step felt louder than the last, each one measured, deliberate, necessary. The elevator whisked her upward. Numbers ticked past, 48, 49, 50. Each floor a heartbeat, each heartbeat a countdown. When the doors opened, she stepped into the lab, and the air changed. It was colder here, tinged with the metallic scent of circuitry and ozone. Lysander was already there, leaning casually against the console of a sleek quantum server. His dark eyes, sharp and calculating, lifted to meet hers. He gave a small nod, approving without words. "Good morning," he said, voice smooth, steady, dangerous. "Ready to see what we really do here?" Orly nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I'm ready, mostly." The lab was breathtaking. Rows upon rows of servers, hummed like a soft orchestra, blinking lights flickering in complex patterns. Each machine was a world unto itself, glowing faintly, alive with potential. The polished black floor reflected the soft blue and green of the control panels, creating the illusion of walking through a universe of data. Lysander stepped forward, guiding her along the aisles. Quantum encryption isn't about speed. It's about control, about patterns, and knowing the difference between signal and noise. That's why I wanted you here, to see if you can spot the patterns. Ollie's green eyes absorbed everything. Machines, the humming servers, the subtle movements of the staff, but most of all, Lysander himself. The way he moved was precise, deliberate, every gesture considered. Even leaning casually against the console, he radiated authority, confidence, and something else. A subtle challenge. So, he said, turning to face her fully, you've seen my work. But can you anticipate what comes next? Orly's mind raced. Next what? But she kept her composure. I can anticipate patterns, predict behavior. That's what I do. He smirked faintly, his eyes darkening. Behavior is easy. Emotion, that's the hard part. And you're already showing signs of conflict. Her pulse spiked. Conflict? Yes, he said, taking a measured step closer. You're balancing observation and interest, curiosity and caution. You're calculating every detail, but your instincts are slipping through. Orly felt heat rise to her cheeks. She wasn't supposed to feel anything. This was a mission. Data was the target. Lysander Kane's brilliance, charm, and subtle power were supposed to be obstacles, not fascination. Instincts slipping. She repeated, voice tight. He smiled, a faint curve, but there was an edge to it, a predator's satisfaction. It happens to everyone. Some just notice it sooner than others. Orly took a breath, forcing her gaze back to the servers. I notice patterns, she said firmly. That's what matters. Lysander's gaze followed her, not missing a detail. Patterns are everything. But some patterns hide variables. Variables like he let the words hang, letting tension stretch across the lab like an invisible wire. People. The hum of the servers grew louder in her ears, almost syncing with her heartbeat. The air was thick with anticipation and ozone. Orly realized in that instant, this mission wasn't just about quantum encryption. It was about navigating Lysander Kane himself. He gestured to a terminal. Sit, analyze this sequence. As she approached, the metallic scent sharp against her senses. She felt his eyes on her, not just observing, but probing. Every keystroke, every pause, every glance measured. Orly, he said softly, leaning slightly closer, do you feel pressure? Her chest tightened. I do, an excitement. His voice was softer now, intimate. Yes, she admitted, almost in a whisper. He nodded, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Good, that's the balance of skill and instinct. You'll need both to survive here and beyond this lab. Orly's fingers hovered over the keyboard, but her mind was elsewhere. The mission, the stakes, the pressure, they all existed. But so did him. The weight of the folder in her bag felt suddenly heavier, a physical reminder of the dual world she inhabited. And in that moment, Orly Browsard realized the truth she had been avoiding. This mission was as much about Lysander Kane as it was about the technology, and her heart was already on the line. The week following Orly's first day in the lab blurred into a whirlwind of data streams, blinking servers, and endless lines of code. Manhattan, outside her window, buzzed with the familiar hum of life sirens, taxi horns, distant chatter, but inside Kane Dynamics, the world was quieter, mechanical, precise. Orly sat at her workstation, hands hovering over the keyboard, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Her pulse thrummed in rhythm with the servers. Every sequence she analyzed, every keystroke she made, reminded her of the mission she hadn't fully chosen for herself. And then the envelope arrived. She recognized the subtle seal of her doctor immediately. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The printout was brief, clinical, yet it hit her like a thunderclap. Pregnancy confirmed. Twins. Orly pressed a hand to her stomach, her fingers trembling. The room felt colder, the hum of the servers louder, almost accusing. For the first time, the mission wasn't just lines of code or surveillance, it was lives, her children's lives, and Lysander's unknowingly entwined future. Her phone buzzed. A message from Cassius. 2 weeks. Decide wisely. Time is money, Orly. Her chest tightened. The words felt like a blade, slicing into every carefully measured plan. If I follow through with the mission, I betray him. If I refuse, Cassius will destroy everything. Orly leaned back, closing her eyes. She could almost hear Lysander's voice in her mind, calm, commanding, dangerous. Do you feel it? Potential, if you know how to manage it. She stood abruptly, pacing the length of the lab, her heels clicking against the polished black floor. She could feel the eyes of the lab's security cameras following her every move. A subtle reminder that any mistake here could be fatal. She pulled out her phone and dialed quickly. Bianca, she said as soon as the line connected. I need help. It's life and death, Orly. Bianca's voice was calm but firm. Corporate espionage again. Yes, Orly admitted. Cassius Thorne, he's escalating. And now I'm pregnant. Twins, I don't know how to protect. Him, the research, and them at the same time. There was a pause on the line. Then Bianca's voice tightened. All right, listen carefully. You will follow my instructions to the letter. No improvising. Lives are on the line. No half measures. Orly understood. I understand, Orly whispered, relief mixed with fear. This is bigger than I thought. It's never just the mission. Later that evening, she returned to the lab. Lysander was there, adjusting settings on one of the quantum processors. His eyes flicked up as she approached. Long day, he asked, voice casual yet sharp enough to sense tension. Orly swallowed. You could say that. He nodded slowly, studying her. You look distracted. Focused, but distracted. She forced herself to maintain composure. Just analyzing the data. Data can wait, he said, stepping closer. The faint scent of his colon sandalwood and something metallic made her pulse skip. Orly, you're hiding something. She froze. Her instincts screamed caution, yet something in her chest tightened in recognition. She couldn't lie. Not to him, not here, not now. I am, she admitted softly. There's something you don't know. His brow furrowed. Something that could jeopardize the lab, the mission. She shook her head. It's personal, but it affects everything. Me, the mission, and you. For a moment, the lab was silent, save for the soft hum of the servers. Lysander's eyes darkened, studying her, calculating. Then, unexpectedly, a faint smile curved his lips. Brave, he said, and foolish, possibly both. All his hands clenched into fists. I don't have a choice. Lives are at stake, and I won't fail them. Not for money, Not for fear. Not for anyone. Lysander nodded slowly. Then let's make sure you don't have to. Over the next few minutes, they discussed strategy, quietly, with Orly explaining her constraints, Cash's threats, her unborn twins, the need to cooperate with the FBI. Lysander listened, absorbing every detail, every nuance, every unspoken tension. And the children, he asked finally, voice low, almost intimate. Are they safe? They will be, Orly said, her voice firm but trembling. If we do this right, I'll protect them. I'll protect you. I'll protect the research. But it has to be perfect. Lysander's eyes softened, and for a fraction of a second, the weight of authority dropped away. Then we'll make it perfect, together. As Orly returned to her workstation, the hum of the servers felt different, now less oppressive, more like a heartbeat, a pulse of possibility. She pressed her hand to her stomach, feeling the tiny life growing inside, and whispered to herself, I can do this. I have to do this. For them, for him, for myself. And somewhere deep in the lab, she realized that her mission was no longer only about espionage. It was about survival, loyalty, and love. The lab was quiet, too quiet. Orly Browsard's fingers hovered above the keyboard, hesitating as the servers hummed beneath her, a low, constant thrum that felt like the heartbeat of the building itself. Manhattan outside was already alive, the distant honk of a taxi blending with muffled morning sirens. But inside, the hum of the quantum servers was the only sound that mattered. Then the alarms went off. Red lights flashed across the lab, painting Lysander Kane's face in strobe-like patterns. Orly felt her stomach lurch. Orly. Lysander's voice cut through the hum, sharp, urgent. He was already moving to the security console, fingers flying over the touchpad. What happened? Orly's pulse raced. I don't know the full extent yet, but a professional-grade surveillance device was detected near the quantum servers. Lysander's eyes narrowed. You've been working with him? She shook her head vigorously. No, I've been pretending to comply to protect you, to protect the research. He took a step closer, dark eyes flashing with a mix of anger and disbelief. Protect me, or yourself. Orly's jaw tightened. Both, and the kids. It's all connected. I can't let Cassius get his hands on the projector. Anyone we care about. Lysander exhaled slowly, a mixture of admiration and frustration. In his expression, you're mad and brave, scarily brave. Orly clenched her fists. I don't have a choice. Lives are at stake. Mine, yours, the research, and theirs. She pressed a hand to her stomach, feeling the twins kick softly. Her chest tightened. They're the only innocent ones here. I won't let anything happen. To them, he studied her silently, then nodded. All right, then we make a plan. We do this together. The next few minutes were a whirlwind. Orly coordinated with the FBI agents stationed nearby, sending encrypted signals to position them for a countermeasure. Lysander directed the lab staff with calm authority, every instruction precise, calculated, and efficient. The hum of the servers seemed to rise in intensity, matching the adrenaline pounding in her veins. A message flashed on Orly's laptop. Cassius Thorne is mobilizing. Multiple attempts detected. Backup in progress. Her breath caught. Lysander noticed and stepped closer. You're shaking. Not shaking, she said through gritted teeth. Alert, hyper-awareness. He smirked faintly, leaning just enough to close the space between them. Hyper-awareness is good if it doesn't turn into panic. Orly took a slow breath, forcing herself to focus. She had spent weeks preparing, but nothing had prepared her for this. The reality of Cash's escalating his plan, the stakes, and the pressure of protecting both the project and Lysander. A subtle movement in the corner caught her eye. One of the backup devices deployed by Cash's had activated, sending encrypted signals toward the server cluster. "Damn it," Lysander muttered. "They're fast. Too fast." Orly's fingers flew over the keyboard, initiating a sequence that would lock down the servers, reroute the signals, and send a fake data trail to confuse the attackers. The lights from the monitors reflected in her green eyes, highlighting. The determination etched across her face. "Is it done?" Lysander asked, voice tense. "Almost," she replied, lips tight, jaw clenched. "Just a few more seconds." Beep. A green light flashed. The signal was rerouted. The backup device was isolated. Orly leaned back, feeling the tension drain from her shoulders, but only slightly. "Nice work," Lysander said, placing a hand briefly on her shoulder. "You just saved the Laband possibly lives." Orly's chest heaved. "We both did. But this isn't over. He'll try again. Cassius doesn't give up easily." Lysander's eyes darkened, calculating. "Then we need to be ready. And you need to rest. You've been pushing yourself too hard." Orly shook her head. "No, not until the twins are safe and this project is secure." He exhaled sharply, frustration and admiration mingling. "You're reckless, but I like it." A tense silence followed, the servers humming softly in the background. The city outside continued its relentless pulse, oblivious to the chaos inside. Orly pressed her hand to her stomach again, feeling the small kicks of her unborn twins. A sharp reminder, every decision now had consequences far beyond herself. "You did well," Lysander said quietly, breaking the silence. "But we can't underestimate him. Cash's thorn is dangerous, and he knows you are a key player." "I know," Orly whispered, "and I won't let him win." Lysander studied her for a long moment. "You're stronger than I thought. Strong enough to survive this, and maybe even teach me a thing or two about courage." Orly met his gaze, the tension between them almost electric. "Just don't underestimate me either," she replied. He smirked faintly, and the subtle tension lingered like a live wire. The lab was secure for now, but Orly knew one thing: the real battle was only beginning. And soon they would face Cash's thorn together directly, without warning, and with lives on the line. The hum of the servers became a steady heartbeat in her ears. Every flicker of the monitor, every shadow in the corner, every whisper of movement reminded her, in this game, one misstep could cost everything. And somewhere deep in the lab, Orly realized it again. This mission was no longer only about technology. It was about trust, survival, and a dangerous, undeniable connection with Lysander Kane. The night had settled over Manhattan like a velvet cloak, dotted with lights that flickered like distant stars. The wind off the Hudson River carried a faint chill, rustling Orly's hair and tugging at the hem of her navy coat. She stood on the rooftop terrace of a luxury high-rise, scanning the shadows. Below, the city's pulse beat steadily, indifferent to the drama unfolding above. Cash's thorn had been impatient. Too impatient. Orly knew he would strike tonight, and she would. Be ready. Footsteps echoed behind her. Lysander Kane emerged from the stairwell, tall, imposing, tuxedo black as the night sky, face unreadable, eyes sharp and cold. "You look tense," he said. "I am Orly admitted, but controlled, mostly." She glanced at the edge of the terrace, where the lights of the city spilled down like molten gold. "Cassius is here, somewhere." "Good," Lysander said. "Then we don't waste time." The first movement came like a shadow sliding across the rooftop. A figure approached, careful, measured, a faint glint of metal catching the moonlight. "Cassius Thorne, impressive," he said smoothly, stepping into the light. "I didn't expect to see you here, Orly, alone, or so brave." Orly's heart pounded, but her voice was steady. "Not alone. We're ready for you." Lysander's hand brushed against hers, a subtle signal of solidarity. His presence grounded her, reminded her why she was willing to risk everything. "You've been disappointingly slow," Cassius continued, voice silk and venom. "You've allowed too much time to pass. Mission ends in 2 weeks. After that, consequences." "I'm protecting him," Orly said, her green eyes locking with Cassius. "And the research. And my children. You won't win." Cassius smirked faintly, bold but foolish. One misstep, and at that moment a series of rapid beeps sounded from Orly's wrist device. FBI agents, hidden along the terrace and inside the stairwell, were moving into position. The rooftop lights flickered as small drones hovered into view, projecting shadows and confusion across the space. Cassius' smirk faltered. He reached for his concealed device, but Lysander was already moving. With a swift motion, he pressed a button on a small control panel, sending a subtle electromagnetic pulse toward Cassius' devices. Orly watched, heart racing, as the screens in his hands flickered, scrambled, then went dark. "You're clever," Cassius said, frustration flashing across his face. "I underestimated you." Orly stepped closer, her voice firm, cutting through. "The night air, you underestimated more than me. You underestimated loyalty and love." Lysander's gaze softened briefly as he studied her. Exactly. The rooftop became a whirlwind of controlled chaos. FBI agents emerged from hiding, moving quickly to intercept Cassius. He realized escape was impossible and cursed under his breath, but his movements were measured, cautious, too late. Within moments, he was disarmed and restrained, his devices confiscated. Orly exhaled, the tension draining from her body, replaced by the adrenaline rush of survival and victory. She pressed a hand to her stomach instinctively, feeling the twins' subtle kicks, a reminder of why she had endured every risk. Lysander stepped close, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You were magnificent," he said quietly. "Every calculated move, every risk, you kept us all safe." Orly's lips quivered in a small, tired smile. "We're not done yet," she whispered. "Cassius might be gone tonight, but someone like him doesn't disappear completely." He nodded, eyes softening. "Then we remain vigilant, together." A breeze swept across the terrace, carrying the faint scent of the river and the city below. The lights of Manhattan twinkled endlessly, indifferent yet comforting. Orly allowed herself a brief moment of relief. They had won tonight. They had survived, but she knew, deep down, that the real challenge wasn't over. The rooftop showdown had been a battle of strategy, courage, and nerve, but the war for their future, for the children and for the technology, was only beginning. Lysander took her hand, gripping it firmly. "Whatever comes next," he said, voice low and steady, "we face it together. No one else, only us." Orly met his gaze, the cityscape reflecting in her eyes. Only us, she echoed, her resolve strengthening. Above them, the night sky stretched endlessly, filled with stars, but beneath the stars, Manhattan hummed its constant, indifferent rhythm. And for the first time that evening, Orly Browsett allowed herself to hope. They had survived the rooftop. The mission was far from over, but so were they. Together, the rooftop was empty now. The wind had died down, leaving only the faint hum of Manhattan's nightlife below. Orly Browsett's heels clicked against the marble terrace as she walked toward the stairwell. Her body still trembled from adrenaline. Her chest tight, every muscle tense from the confrontation with Cassius Thorne. Lysander Kane followed silently behind her, his expression unreadable, dark eyes absorbing every detail of her movements. For the first time that night, they were alone, not just physically, but free from the chaos, from the danger, from the calculations and strategies that had dominated the last few weeks. "You okay?" he asked quietly, the subtle warmth of his voice contrasting with the chill of the night. Orly exhaled, finally allowing herself a small laugh, a shaky relief that mingled with lingering tension. "I will be, eventually. I didn't realize how much I was holding until it all went down." Lysander nodded, stepping closer. His presence was grounding, reassuring, yet filled with the undeniable authority that made him Lysander. "Kane, you were magnificent out there. Every move, every decision, calculated perfectly. You saved the lab. You saved lives. And you did it all while keeping your humanity intact." Her stomach tightened, and she instinctively pressed a hand against it. The twins inside were small, vulnerable, yet somehow fierce-kicking gently, as if acknowledging her resolve. "I just did what I had to do, for them and for you." He studied her hand on her stomach, his lips parting slightly. "I didn't expect this," he admitted softly. "Not that I doubted your abilities. This is another level. You're extraordinary." Orly's eyes met his, green and resolute. "We're not done yet. Cassius might be restrained tonight, but someone like him doesn't disappear. We have to be prepared, always." "Agreed," he said, voice steady. Then, after a pause, softer, almost vulnerable, "But for now, can we just breathe? Just for a moment?" She allowed herself to nod. The city lights stretched endlessly, a glittering mosaic beneath them. The cool night air, carrying faint hints of the river and the distant smell of roasting street food, was intoxicatingly real. For the first time in weeks, Orly felt a tiny thread of calm settle over her. "You know," Lysander said after a moment, leaning on the railing, "I didn't fully understand you before tonight, but I do now. The way you move, think, act, it's impressive and terrifying." Orly chuckled lightly, tension still coiled in her shoulders. "Terrifying in a good way, I hope." He tilted his head, the corners of his mouth lifting in a faint, almost amused smile. "Definitely in a good way, but also inspiring. You make me want to be better, smarter, faster, more aware." Her lips twitched into a tentative smile, glad to be of service. They remained silent for a moment, watching the city stretch below them, lights reflecting in their eyes, each one lost in their own thoughts. Then Orly shifted, voice quieter, more serious. "Lysander, I need to know something." He turned, attentive. "Anything. Do you trust me?" Her green eyes searched his, unwavering. He considered, then nodded slowly. "I trust you, Orly, completely. I've been wrong about many things, but not about you. A flicker of warmth went through her chest. She had fought so long, calculated every move, held her nerve through danger and deception, and finally, in this quiet aftermath, Lysander Kane trusted her. She swallowed, feeling the weight of everything: the rooftop confrontation, the threat, the twins, the lab, the mission, and exhaled, a slow release of tension. "Thank you," she whispered. For the first time in weeks, Lysander allowed himself to relax. "We still have work to do," he said softly, "but tonight, we survived. And that counts for something." Orly nodded, her gaze sweeping the rooftop, the city skyline, the faint stars above. "It counts for everything," she said. As they made their way back into the building, the hum of the city below was accompanied by the faint, persistent hum of the lab servers, still alive, still vigilant, like a heartbeat reminding them that danger had not disappeared, but neither had their resolve. In the quiet moments before the night fully faded into morning, Orly realized that the mission, the danger, and the stakes had changed. It was no longer just about technology or espionage. It was about trust, partnership, and protecting the life she carried. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she felt it, a thrill, a hope, and a challenge all at once. Because this was just the beginning, and the real test was still ahead. The next morning, the soft hum of Manhattan seemed far away. Inside Lysander Kane's penthouse, Orly Browsard sipped her coffee slowly, her eyes scanning the skyline through the large glass windows. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm golden glow over the city. Despite the beauty of the moment, her mind was a storm of thoughts. Lysander, dressed in a simple black shirt and dark jeans, stood next to her, looking out over the river. He was quieter than usual, his gaze lost in the distance, but there was something different in the way he held himself this morning, something deeper. Orly could feel the weight of the silence between them, but she didn't break it. Sometimes the space was needed. The room was serene, sleek furniture, polished wood floors, the soft clinking of the coffee cup in her hand. Outside, the city moved at its usual pace, but inside this penthouse, everything felt like it had slowed. Orly set her cup down and finally spoke. "You've been quiet, more than usual." Lysander didn't turn to face her immediately. His hand rested on the windowsill, fingers tapping softly as though lost in thought. Then he exhaled slowly and turned to her. His eyes were still intense, but there was a soft vulnerability in them now, a hint of something he hadn't shown before. "I've been thinking," he began, his voice low, almost hesitant, "about everything, about how we got here, about you." Orly's heart gave an unexpected lurch. She met his gaze, a mix of uncertainty and curiosity stirring within her. "You've been thinking about me?" she asked quietly, her voice betraying a hint of surprise. He nodded, stepping closer, his presence filling the space between them. "I've known power, Orly. I've lived with it, surrounded by it. But you're different." Orly swallowed, trying to ignore the tightness in her chest. "Different how?" Lysander studied her carefully. "You've been through so much. You've risked everything, your life, your career, even your heart." He paused, the words hanging in the air like fragile glass. "But I don't think you really understand how much you've changed everything. For me, for us." Her breath caught. "For us." The words resonated deep inside her. She hadn't expected this conversation. She hadn't expected him to open up like this, not so soon. There was so much they hadn't discussed, so much they still didn't know about each other. "What do you mean?" Orly whispered, her voice trembling just slightly. Lysander stepped forward, his fingers brushing hers for a moment before his hand settled on her arm, steady and sure. I mean that you've shown me a side of myself I didn't even know existed. And for the first time, I'm not just fighting to win. I'm fighting for something that matters. For you, for what we're building. Orly's heart raced. This wasn't just about technology or the mission anymore. It wasn't just about her duty or his power. This was personal. I didn't expect any of this, she admitted, looking down at her hands. The weight of everything was so much clearer. Now the choices she had made, the risks she had taken. But standing here, with Lysander Kane, it felt like the first time she had ever truly considered what was at stake beyond the mission. Lysander's touch was warm, grounding. He gently lifted her chin so that she was looking into his eyes again. You're more than just a mission, Orly. You're more than just a strategy. I know you've been protecting me, the lab, the children, but what about you? What do you want? Orly's chest tightened. What did she want? It wasn't just about surviving anymore. It wasn't just about outsmarting Cassius Thorne or protecting the research. She searched his eyes, and in that moment, everything that had been building between them suddenly made sense. Her fears, her desires, her confusion at all collided. In the quiet space between them, I want a future, Lysander, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Not just a future of survival, but something real, something we can build together. But I can't be the only one doing the building. Lysander nodded slowly, his gaze softening. He stepped closer, his hand moving to rest on her waist. We will build it together. There was a brief pause as they stood there, connected in silence. The sound of the city outside felt like it was miles away, and in that quiet, Orly could feel something new growing between them, bond stronger than any mission or threat. Do you think I can do this? Orly asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Do you think I can balance everything, the mission, the kids, and us? Lysander's eyes softened as he brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. I think you're already doing it, Orly. You've shown me what real strength is, what love is. You're not alone in this anymore. Orly's breath hitched, a tear threatening to fall. She had been so focused on the mission, on survival, that she had forgotten what it meant to truly live. But standing here, with Lysander, she felt the weight of everything shift. She wasn't alone. I didn't expect any of this either, she whispered. But now I see it. I see us. He smiled gently, a look of relief and hope crossing his face. Good, he said, softly, brushing his lips against her forehead. Because this is just the beginning. The morning light filtered through the large windows of Lysander Kane's penthouse, casting warm hues of gold and amber across the room. Orly Browsard stood by the window, her hand resting gently on her stomach, watching the city below. The hum of the world outside was almost drowned out by the soft pulse of the quantum servers in the corner, still buzzing with activity. But for the first time in weeks, Orly wasn't listening to the noise of the mission, the ticking clock, or the threats. She was listening to her own heartbeat. The twins were kicking now, gentle and rhythmic, as if reminding her of everything that had happened and everything that was still to come. A part of her had never imagined a future like this, not when she was first recruited into this mission. But now, standing here in the stillness of the penthouse, she could feel it, the soft weight of what they had built, what they were building. Lysander entered the room, his footsteps soft on the polished floors. He was wearing a loose shirt and jeans, more casual than usual, but still undeniably Lysander. His presence filled the space, but today it felt different. The tension from their earlier confrontations had dissipated, replaced by something new, something fragile, something real. "Morning," he said, his voice low, the warmth of the sun catching in his eyes. Orly turned to face him, her lips curving into a small smile. "Morning," she replied softly. He stepped closer, his hand brushing the side of her face, the tenderness of the gesture making her heart flutter. "How are they today?" he asked, placing a hand on her stomach. The connection between them was palpably an unspoken understanding that this wasn't just about their past or the mission anymore. This was about their future. Orly's smile widened as she looked at him. "They're kicking like crazy. I think they're excited for us to get it all together." Lysander chuckled softly, a deep sound that seemed to reverberate in the air. "I think they're trying to remind us we've got a lot of work ahead." "More than you know," she said with a sigh, feeling the weight of their responsibility, the research, the mission, and now, the future they were about to share with two tiny lives. Lysander's expression shifted. He cupped her face, his thumb brushing across her cheek. "We'll get it together. We'll figure it out, one step at a time." Orly nodded, feeling the tears welling up in her eyes. She had never let herself break down before. She had always been the one in control, always calculating, always planning. But now, with Lysander, with the twins, everything felt different. "I've never been so scared in my life," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. Lysander's gaze softened, and for a moment the world seemed to still. "I know," he said gently, "but you're not alone. We're in this together. All of it." She took a deep breath, steadying herself, and reached out to take his hand. The simple act grounded her, reminding her that despite the chaos, the risks, the unknowns, they were a team now. The sound of the elevator dinging in the background broke the moment, and Orly felt a pang of anxiety rise in her chest. It wasn't just about the family they were building, it was also about the threats that still loomed over them. Lysander squeezed her hand. "You're still thinking about the mission, aren't you?" Orly nodded. "I don't know how to stop thinking about it. We're not out of danger yet. Caches might be out of the picture, but there are still people who want what we have. People who will stop at nothing to take it from us." Lysander's face hardened with determination. "We'll protect what's ours. We'll protect the kids. You've already proved that, and you've got me on your side." She looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. "I don't think I've ever fully understood what that means, to have someone by my side like this." He leaned down, his lips brushing hers, a soft, slow kiss that held more meaning than any words could convey. When he pulled back, his eyes were darker, full of the unspoken promise of what was to come. "We'll face whatever comes next," he whispered, his breath warm against her lips. Together, the weight of his words settled over her, not just as reassurance, but as a vow. They were a team, not just in the mission, but in everything. Orly looked out over the city once more, watching as the sun climbed higher, illuminating the buildings, the streets, and the world they now had to navigate. It felt like the calm before a storm, but in that moment she didn't feel the fear. She felt something else, hope. "Lysander," Orly said quietly, "what if this is it? What if we've made it?" Lysander followed her gaze, his voice thoughtful. "What if we have?" The morning sun shone brightly across the skyline, the soft light filtering through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Lysander Kane's penthouse. Orly stood by the large glass doors, her eyes focused on the city below, but her mind was far away. The streets of Manhattan were a blur of activity, people moving in their usual dance, but Orly felt a stillness inside her. For the first time in months, the weight of the world didn't feel as heavy. The twins had been born just a week ago, healthy, perfect in every way, and the quiet moments with them had become Orly's refuge. She hadn't expected to feel this content, this peaceful. She had always been a woman driven by urgency, by missions, by risks. But now, as she stood there, looking out over the city she had once seen as a battleground, she realized that this was her new mission, to protect her family. Lysander's footsteps approached, soft but deliberate. He joined her by the window. Standing silently beside her, his presence solid and unwavering. She didn't need to look at him to feel the connection between them, the unspoken promise they had made to each other. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Lysander's voice was low, warm, the hint of a smile in his tone. Orly nodded, turning to meet his gaze. "The city never sleeps, does it?" "No, it doesn't," he replied, his hand brushing hers as if reassuring her that they were in this together. For a moment, they stood there in silence, watching as the sun rose higher in the sky, painting the city with shades of gold and amber. The morning felt like a new beginning, the promise of something more than just surviving. They had won the battle. Now they had to build the future. "I've been thinking," Lysander said softly, his voice barely above a whisper, "about everything, about how we got here and what comes next." Orly turned to face him fully. "What do you mean?" Lysander took a slow breath, his eyes locking onto hers. "We've both been through so much, Orly. We've made choices, faced danger, trusted each other with parts of ourselves we've never trusted anyone with, and through it all, we've survived. But now," he paused, as if weighing his words, "now we have something new to fight for. A family, a future." Orly's heart swelled at the thought. She had been so focused on the mission, on the danger, on the secrets, that she hadn't allowed herself to fully embrace the life that had blossomed from all of it. The twins, Lysander, this home. She reached out, taking his hand in hers, and "we'll protect it, no matter what comes next." Lysander smiled, his grip tightening on her hand. "We will, together." They both turned to look out the window once more, the city sprawling before them, vast and unyielding. But now, the world seemed different. The chaos, the noise, the risk, it all felt smaller. It no longer defined them. "Do you ever wonder," Orly began, her voice soft, "if we've made the right choice? To do this, to be together, after everything that's happened?" Lysander's gaze softened as he looked at her, the corners of his mouth curving into a smile. "I don't wonder anymore, Orly. I know we've made the right choice. You and me, the twins, this life, it's all part of something bigger, something worth fighting for." Orly smiled, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. She could feel the weight of their journey, how far they had come, how much they had fought for each other, but standing here now, in this moment, it all felt worth it. Lysander took a deep breath, and for a moment, his expression grew serious, his gaze intense. "Whatever comes next, we face it together. You know that, right?" Orly met his gaze, her heart beating in sync with his. "Together," she echoed, her voice filled with certainty. "No more secrets, no more fear. Just us." The air was still, And in that stillness, Orly realized that the story of her life, of their life together, was only just beginning. Lysander stepped closer, his hand resting gently on her stomach. And this is where we start. A future we build from the ground up. With love, with trust, and with everything we've got. Orly looked at him, her eyes shining with hope. A future, she whispered, as the first rays of sunlight kissed the horizon. And in that moment, Orly and Lysander knew that whatever challenges came their way, they would face them together, stronger than before, united in a love that had endured the deepest tests, ready to create a life full of promise, love, and the family they had always dreamed of. The city below continued its constant hum, unaware of the quiet revolution that had taken place above. But for Orly and Lysander, the journey ahead was no longer defined by the past. It was defined by the future they were about to write together.